This one. Okay. No, this one. Just open it. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. So first of all, I would like to thank organizers and Professor Paul for inviting me in this conference. So today I will be going to talk about the computational investigation of some porphyrin-based dyes for the dye-sensitized solar cells. So briefly, I will start with discussing the present world energy scenario, how the things are going on worldwide. Due to diminishing of fossil fuels, renewables are taking initiate. So then I will discuss about the dye-sensitized solar cells, why we are dealing with the dye-sensitized solar cells. Afterwards, I'll be dealing with why we are taking porphyrin as a sensitizing dye. Then I'll be discussing about the approaches that we are going to use. So it is basically the density functional theory and the time-dependent density functional theory. Then I will be discussing about how these porphyrins are modeled and how they can be taken up while in dye-sensitized solar cells. So if you look at the present world energy scenario, this is a report by REN21. This is a recent report in which we can see that initially in 2009, we are having share of fossil fuels, 80.7%, but right now it's decreased by 78.5% and renewables are increased by 8.7% to 12.6%. It means the global energy consumptions has increased by like too much in past 50 years, but last increase was due to the available fossil fuels and industrialization in countries like America, Japan, UK. But now the situation became more critical because the rapid industrialization in China, India, and since they represent 1/3 of the total world population, so we need to lean more towards the renewable energy. Okay, so if we look at this graph, we can see that 1% is a share of the solar power, solar energy. And worldwide solar total energy consumption in 2020 is reported to be 400 exajoules. And the available solar power received by the earth per year is too much. So we can utilize solar energy more and develop some technology based on the solar power. Now this is another data. If you look at this data, then in 2011, the share of the fossil fuels is 68%, which is reduced in 2021 by 8%. And renewables are taking lead. So solar energy, again, it is increased by 2% to 10%. Okay, so there is a rapid increase of 8%. So we can develop technologies more based on this solar power. So this is the solar cell efficiency graph reported by NREL. So in multi-junction solar cells, recently there has been reported there is an efficiency around 48%. But there are also emerging photovoltaic technologies. Those photovoltaic technologies may include the dye-sensitized solar cells, the quantum dot solar cells, so these and perovskite solar cells also. So although these dye-sensitized solar cells are approaching efficiencies around 13%, but there is a lot more to do in this field. So I will briefly discuss about the IV characteristics of the solar cell, in which we can have the current voltage graph, in which we can have current is steady, but when at some point when voltage increases, it sharply drops. Okay, and on the y-axis we are having intercept of current, which is a ISC as a short circuit current, and on the x-axis we are having open circuit voltage. This short circuit current and this open circuit voltage are the crucial factors that determines the overall power conversion efficiency of any solar cell. And if we look at this curve, then AM0 represents the extraterrestrial solar radiation, and this AM1.5 represents the solar radiation, incident solar radiation that falls on the clear sky at 1000 watt per meter square. So if you look at this curve, we can see that 1.1 to 1.7 electron volt region, this is the crucial one. We are getting the most of the power conversion efficiency in this range. So we can have focus on the materials that can have band gap of this region. So next is, if you look at the efficiency, so it is dependent on these three factors mainly: the open circuit voltage, the short circuit current, and the fill factor. So open circuit voltage and the fill factor can be increased by having the material of high band gap, while the low band gap material can increase the short circuit current, and thus we can be able to get the overall power conversion efficiency more. So this is the typical solar radiation spectrum. So in which, if we focus on this region, this is the commercialized one, silicon based solar cells, which are having a band gap of 1.12 electron volt, and they are absorbing mostly in this region. And as you can see in this graph, that most of the solar radiation falls on the NIR and IR region. So if we can design something in such a way that it can have panchromatic absorption starting from this 400 nanometer to 1200 nanometer, then obviously we can increase the efficiency and we can get comparative efficiency to that of silicon solar cells. So dye-sensitized solar cells could be the better alternative to this problem. And these dye-sensitized solar cells are basically using TiO2 as a semiconductor, which is having band gap of 3.2 electron volts. So it is having absorption only in this region. So what we can do, we can have a dye, which is a sensitizing dye that can be anchored on this TiO2 surface, and then this dye can have we can design that dye in such a way that it can have absorption starting from 400 nanometer up to 1100 nanometer, so that it can have broad spectral coverage and we could have panchromatic response, and hence we can increase the efficiency of solar cells. Okay, so if you look at the structure and working principle of these dye-sensitized solar cells, then we can have four crucial factors. The first one is sensitizing dye, in which I am more interested. The another one is semiconductor, which is TiO2, sometimes zinc oxide is also being used. Another one is redox electrolyte, which is iodine based or cobalt based, but scientists are recently focusing on the solid state material like Spiro O METAD kind of materials that can also be utilized in place of this redox electrolyte, because it is having leakage problem, although power conversion efficiency is relatively low. And electrodes. Okay, so what is happening over here in this working of this dye sensitized solar cells, we can have dye, sensitizing dye. What will happen when solar radiation falls over it? Then this sensitizing dye gets excited and the electron gets transferred from the LUMO of the dye to the conduction band of the semiconductor. Then this dye has been regenerated by this redox couple, and this redox couple is further regenerated by the outer load. So this is how this whole solar cell is working. So now why we are focusing on the porphyrins? So we want to copy the nature's way. So we are having chlorophyll, and in this way we are doing the photosynthesis, which is all happening. So the common thing between this porphyrin dye which we are taking and this chlorophyll, it is having common macrocycle, porphyrin based macrocycles over there. Okay, so what we can have, there is a resemblance of their structure. So we are choosing porphyrin because it is having a resemblance of structure with the natural photosynthetic agent chlorophyll. Its synthesis is relatively straightforward. And next is that its optical and electronic properties can be tuned. How they can be tuned? Because these three positions are crucial: the meso position, the alpha position, and the beta position. So we can have functional groups, we can add the functional groups at this position, or either at this position or at this position. So their properties can be tuned whatever we want. So this is a typical, if we look at the absorption spectra, this is a typical chlorophyll spectra. And this is the porphyrin spectra. This is the actually fused porphyrin spectra, not the original one. In the original one, we are going to have this band and this band only, which I will be discussing later. So we can use porphyrin as a sensitizing dye over other materials. So now this porphyrin dye, we are having some characteristic property. So this porphyrin dye is based on Gottermann's 4 orbital model. So if we are taking up the D4H symmetric porphyrin, then it can have 4 orbitals like A1U, A2U comprising HOMO and HOMO -1, and doubly degenerate LUMO orbitals that is having EG. Okay, so if you look at this curve, then we can have most of the HOMO is localized over this meso position and the nitrogen ring, and for excited state or LUMO, we can have electron density mostly localized on this beta pyrolytic thing and the meso thing. So we can make functionalization over these places and tune its properties. Further, there is a configuration interaction happening over this A2U EG and A1U EG. And due to these configuration interactions, it will give rise to two kind of bands: the high intensity SORE band and the low intensity Q band in the 550 to 650 nanometer range, and SORE band in 400 nanometer range. So these two are the characteristic bands of the porphyrin which actually occurs. And there is a deep valley, or this region is vacant. So we can tune this porphyrin in such a way that it can have spectral coverage starting from here to here. So how we are going to do this? We are going to do this with computation. So computation can be applied to screen new materials for further experimental development. So for this, we are going to use the density functional theory. So basically in density functional theory, the Cohen-Sham, there is initially Schrodinger equation can be solved with Hartree-Fock methods, and Hartree-Fock methods are basically wave function based approach. But in this method, we can have 3n spatial variables along with 3n spin variables. So the problems became complicated, but electron density is a solution to this problem because they can be replaced with single function, that is electron density. And in this density functional theory, we can have Cohen-Sham orbitals similar to the Hartree-Fock orbitals. And these and one more thing which is interesting in this density functional theory, that in Cohen-Sham, in Hartree-Fock approach, we can have approximations from the initial. But in this electron density approach, we can have approximation at the end only. For in order to calculate this VXE, we will apply approximations that are local density approximations, generalized gradient approximations, or some hybrid functionals that we are going to utilize and solve the equations exactly. So further, we will made an initial guess for the electron density, then follow these steps, and if the true ground state density is obtained, then we will stop, and if not, then we will repeat from step 2. So what are the properties that can be obtained by following these computational approaches are? If we are dealing with ground states, then we can obtain the potential energy surface, the vibrational frequency, the electron and spin density, the molecular orbitals through molecular orbital theory, and so on. And with the use of time-dependent density functional theory, we can have the absorption spectra, the emission spectra, excitation energy, electronically allowed, dipole allowed or forbidden transition, and so. And we can have some software codes that are working with these two approaches, that are Gaussian, VSP, and some more. So basically, I am going to utilize these density functional based approaches in order to develop some new porphyrin based sensitizers. So let's have a look on the brief development of this porphyrin based dye. It starts in 1993 from a paper from Grezel, who is the inventor of DSSC. So he actually uses chlorophyll kind of porphyrin dye, this one, and there is a rapid increase in between the years 2009 to 2014, when there are lots of molecules have been developed regarding this porphyrin thing, and this SM315 proved to be the champion dye. And for this SM315, we are having the highest efficient DSSC reported till date. This paper is also by Grezel. So in this SM315, we can have what is the structural? We can have this porphyrin ring as a core, and we can have donor and acceptor groups. So we are following this kind of a strategy, like donor pi acceptor kind of porphyrins can be further utilized in order to enhance the efficiency of the solar cells. So we are following this strategy, and following this, we can have, let's have a look on this highest efficient DSSC till date. This is champion SM315 dye, which is having the porphyrin core in there. This is the electron donating group over there, and this is the electron withdrawing group. And with this configuration, we are getting the ISC, the short circuit current, to be 18.1 milliampere per centimeter square. and the open circuit voltage to be 0.91 volt, and fill factor comes out to be 0.78, and this efficiency is 13%, which is maximum till date using the porphyrin based dyes. And if you look at the absorption spectra of this dye, then it starts from 400 nanometer to 700 nanometer. So it is experimentally as well as theoretically verified, and this paper appears in Nature. Now we are going to follow the same kind of strategy. I mean, I am using this kind of porphyrin core along with different electron donating and electron withdrawing groups and model some new porphyrins. So this is what I did. This is a new kind of dye which is having this porphyrin core similar to that, this electron donating group and electron withdrawing group. I am going to change this electron withdrawing group starting from the perilene to hexarilene. I am extending the pi conjugation so that band gap of the material can be reduced. So ideal dye the properties of ideal dye should be like donor acceptor subunits with extended pi conjugation, which I did. Next is electron donating groups on the donor and HOMO centered on the donor, which we will see in the next slides. The electron withdrawing group along with LUMO, this can be centered on the acceptor. This I will also show you. Next is we are getting the high extension coefficient for HOMO to LUMO charge transfer transitions. This is going to be very important, and we are also getting this thing. And next is energy level alignment. That means there, in order to have proper charge injection, we can have the LUMO of the dye should be situated above the conduction band of the TiO2 or the semiconductor. And in order to have the regeneration of dye, we can have the HOMO of the dye should be situated below the redox. So this might be the case. So ideally, this might be the situation of ideal dye. So what we did, we have obtained the frontier molecular orbitals for this dye, in which we are extending the pi conjugation from donor group is common for all 5. We are changing the acceptor conformation. So here we are having perilene and extending the pi conjugation. We ended up with hexarilene anhydride. Why the anhydride moiety is over there? In order to have the better charge conjugation between the semiconductor and this dye unit. And if we look at this HOMO and LUMO of these all 5 dyes, we can see that most of the HOMO is centered over the electron donating group along with porphyrin core. In all the 5 cases, we can see this thing. And if you look at the LUMO thing, then it is mostly, localized on this electron withdrawing group in all the 5 cases. And one more interesting thing that while, as expected, while in inclusion of pi electrons, HOMO level is going up and LUMO level is going down. That means there is a reduction of band gap if we can have things like this. Now, if you look at the energy level alignment of this, we can have standard this conduction band of TiO2 and this redox couple. And if we look at the energy levels of these dye, then we can have, there is an ample injection force in order to transfer the electron from the LUMO of the dye to the conduction band of the TiO2, and there should be ample driving force in order to regenerate the dye from this redox couple to this HOMO. So we are exactly giving, getting whatever we are expecting, and moreover to this, we are also getting that there is a decrease in the band gap, and it is also expected because we are increasing the pi electrons in the system. So that is why LUMO level is going down, HOMO levels going up, and the band gap is reduced for all the 5 cases. Next, we have also calculated the charge transfers in these dyes by taking the electron density differences of S0 to S1. So this is the particular case for S0 to S1 transitions, and these all S0 to S1 transitions appear to be the charge transfer band, and this is the parameter. This is the DCT, charge transfer distance. This is amount of charge transfer, and this is the dipole moment that we are getting by the product of these two, DCT and QCT. Now these green regions corresponds to electron density depletion zones, and these blue regions corresponds to electron density enhancement zones. So if you look at this corresponding to S0 to S1 transitions going from PR1 to PR5, in all the cases electron density is moving from this electron donating group to the electron withdrawing group. In all the 5 cases it appears. And this one is proved to be the more prominent because dipole moment is more for this case. And we are also going to see what will happen next. So if you look at the optical properties of this dye, we can clearly see that there is these corresponds to the first excited state for all the 5 dyes, and the composition of transitions turned out to be HOMO to LUMO. That is HOMO to LUMO 1 electron transition for S0 to S1 transition. And the optical gap or first energy of the first excited state is found to be 1.5, 1.45, 1.34. 1.20, 1.11 and 1.03. And wavelength for charge, this is the wavelength for the charge transfer band, which is 855 nanometers. This is 927, 1035, 1116 and 1207. So in all the 5 cases, there is a significant bathochromic shift as expected, because since we are again extending the pi electrons, so that is why the bathochromatic shift is expected in all the 5 cases. So we are seeing this. And one more thing, that these dyes, all of these are proved to be significant, but this PR3 is found to be more significant because it is having panchromatic kind of absorption. Like we are seeing several peaks over here. So if we look at this dye more clearly, which we are going to use for our further study. So we actually, what we did, this is the red curve corresponds to the PR3 dye. And we have individually optimized the structures for the quaterylene anhydride and the porphyrin with donor group. So if we look at the individual curves, then we can see that for the porphyrin along with donor group, we can have this blue spectra, this B band, this is a SORE band, which is a characteristic band of the porphyrin, this Q band, which is again the characteristic band of the porphyrin. And we can also see from here that these 2 bands, this SORE band and Q band, involves the composition from this HOMO -1, LUMO and LUMO +1 orbitals that I have already discussed in the Gottermann's 4 orbital model initially. So it is clear from this perspective. Next, this additional peaks appears due to the electron donating group. Okay. Now, if you look at the spectra for the quaterylene anhydride, then it is having a characteristic band around 700 nanometers involving the HOMO to LUMO 1 electron transition. Okay, next, if we mix these 2 together, then what will we get? We are getting the panchromatic kind of spectra, the red one. And this peaks corresponds to the charge transfer band involving the HOMO to LUMO 1 electron transition. So this kind of dye and similar kind of dyes we are going to model in our lab. So this is the one we are going to take up, and our experimental group in Canada is synthesizing this dye, and they are trying to make solar cell out of this. So next, what we are trying to have in our lab, because we are using the porphyrin dyes, we want to enhance the IPC curve. Next, we are trying to use some solid hole transporting materials. We are working with that thing also. So we are trying to design some hole transporting materials that can be utilized for the solid state DSSC. Because till date, we are having solid state DSSC with porphyrin, but their efficiency is quite low. So we are trying to get more better conjugation so that we can enhance the efficiencies. Next, there is a lack of absorption, like absorption valley between the Q and B band. So we can model some kind of porphyrin in such a way that we can have split B bands. Like in dimer case, we can get this. So we can have these kind of things in our lab. And next is we are trying to anchor this PR3 dye with the semiconductor. And we are trying to simulate the whole thing so that we can get the exact power conversion efficiency theoretically. And further, we can verify it with the experimental results. And for this, we can use the Marcus theory of electron transfer. And next, we are also interested in these self-assembled porphyrin, fullerene, tides and tetraeds, in which we can see that how efficient such kind of systems could be, this donor acceptor systems could be, and what would be the rate of energy and electron transfer in such kind of systems. And next, I would like to acknowledge my collaborators from University of Saskatchewan and IIT BHU. And also, I would like to acknowledge the fundings from this SERB, Inspire, TCube 3 and NIT Jamshedpur. And thanks for your kind attention.
Thank you for a nice presentation. It's open for questions.
Very